Okay, so today for step 4 in Ignite, we're going to be talking about building your database and creating additional leads. So far, you've been really focused on kind of your active lead generation, calling through your sphere of influence, um, and kind of generating leads through, like, just through typical contacts, right? So today where we're going to start is like, well, as you're doing that, like you really want to actually build up an actual database. And so we're going to look at Command, which is the Keller Williams agent platform that has a lot of great features to help you do exactly that. So the first thing that we want to do when using Command is use Google Chrome. So anybody out there like Firefox users or use whatever Microsoft's, it used to be Internet Explorer, I think they call it something else now, or Safari on Macs. Don't use those. All right. Make sure that you're using Google Chrome just because it does work better. It's less buggy that way. The second thing you want to do is open up an incognito window, which you can do by clicking the 3 dots in the upper right hand corner or the settings button if you're on a PC. And you just want to hit the new incognito window here. And what that means is essentially incognito windows aren't going to access any of the cookies or stored files that internet browsers use to run faster. And the advantage of us doing that is that it will create, again, less bugs as commands updated. So I'm going to share my screen with all of you now. And what you're seeing here is the login page for KW Command. So once you've opened up your window, you're going to go to agent.kw.com. All right, and it's going to bring you here. All right, and this is the login page for Command. So today we're just going to use I'm just going to use my login, but this would be the login that you created through Scott Leroy Marketing. All right. So it should be, typically it's like your first initial and your last name and then whatever password you created. This is also your like my KW password. So the login and password that you would use for mykw.kw.com. All right. You're going to sign in, it's going to bring us to the page. Now, I will kind of warn you all that Command does operate a little bit slower, at least on my computer, when I'm using Zoom and recording and doing all of those things. So you're just going to have to bear with us a little bit here. Uh-oh. What just happened? What? That was weird. Uh-oh. Let's try this again. It wouldn't be a tech class if we didn't have tech issues. All right, let me try sharing my screen again. Let me go to agent.kw.com. Put in the right password. Okay, see? So I just got to teach you all a real life lesson and how to deal with some of the bugs that happen with Command. So Command is kind of a work in progress. It's something that's being built right now as we use it. So unfortunately, what that does mean is that we do occasionally get bugs and things like that. And the main reason for them is that Command is updated at least 3 times a week. So all of the code and everything that run these websites are updated at least 3 times a week. And so that can, like, obviously every time you update things, it can get a little wonky. This is Command. On the left-hand side, you have all of the different applets that we use. So there, if you click on the red KW button over here, it will open up all of the labels. Eventually, you'll get used to what these look like. So as you've been calling people, right? So how many people, like, who have you been calling so far for Ignite? Anybody out there want to share who they've been talking to? You've been doing your 10, right? Your 10-4-4 or 10-10-10, right? Yeah, 10-10-10, sorry. Right, so who are the 10 people that you've been talking to every day? Anybody? Anybody want to share?
I've been working with my database.
Okay, so you're calling like kind of friends and families, acquaintances, stuff like that?
Correct, yes.
Awesome. So one of the best ways to kind of build your database is as you start connecting with those people, right? So as you're going to connect with people, what you want to do is you want to have a system of how you can kind of keep track of them, right? And kind of track that communication. One of the things that I learned very early on as an agent was when I would deal with somebody that was interested, like I would get a lot of people that were like, that would tell me, oh, I'm not interested I'm looking to sell, but not until like next spring, right? Or I'm holding off until the fall, or I'm holding off to the summer. I want to let the kids get through school, right? So what would end up happening is I would lose track of those people because I didn't have like a really good system for keeping in touch with them, keeping on top of all of that stuff. So what Command allows us to do is to do exactly that. So this is the contacts field in Command. It's complete. All of this view right here is completely customizable. You can view them as little cards here. You can view them as lines, like more spreadsheet style. You can customize what columns you want to see. So like what type of information you want to see here. This is all completely customizable. The most important button on this screen, however, is the Add Contact button. So my recommendation is that the easiest way and the best way to really build a database is one person at a time, because you can really make sure that everything is being done correctly, and you can really like kind of set those people up 100%. And so if you know that everybody in your database, as opposed to like trying to bring in a lot of people and then cleaning it up, I feel like you're better off actually making one-to-one contact, right? Having a conversation with somebody, getting all of the relevant information, and then adding them to your database. So adding people to your database is as simple as clicking the Add Contact button. And so in here, so I know that Spencer, for instance, is not in my database. So if I wanted to, I just hit the Add Contact button, and now I can say Spencer Churchill. Spencer, what's your email address?
It's spencer.churchill@kw.com.
Awesome, Spencer. Listen, I just want to make sure that I have your best phone number. What's the best phone number to reach you at?
Yeah, it's 860-808-6360.
Awesome. And listen, I know that you were kind of bouncing back and forth between Tampa and Connecticut. Where do you spend most of your time?
In Connecticut.
In Connecticut, and where is that?
Right now it's in Broadbrook.
In Broadbrook. Where's Broadbrook?
Yep. Broadbrook is near the border of Massachusetts.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
And so I'm going to just put Broadbrook here. Near Enfield, Connecticut, or no? Oh,
yeah, it's up there. Yeah.
All right. So what this is looking for is just looking for a town. So what I'd really want to do here is actually get his full address, right? So Spencer, what's your mailing address there? I actually don't have that. I'd love to be able to send you a holiday card, from time to time.
It is, sorry, I just moved. So it's 30 Folkestone Road.
And you can see as I start typing information in here, Command is going to start finding that information through Google and verifying those addresses. So now as Spencer gave me his address, I just click on this here and it's going to update everything with the zip code, the state, and all of that. All right. So now I have all of Spencer's main information here. Now you can mark this as a lead. You can add it to your sales pipeline. There's a bunch of stuff here that you can do. What best practices really is trying to make sure that like for every contact you have in their database, you want to have multiple points of contact for various reasons. The first and foremost is just so that it's because and we've talked about this, right? Like different people respond to different types of messaging, right? Not everybody is going to respond to an email. Not everybody is going to respond to a Facebook post. Not everybody is going to respond to a letter or a handwritten card. But everybody typically has their preferred method of communication, whether it's text, email, phone call, direct mail, whatever it is. And so the more contact information we have, like the various ways we're able to actually get in touch with people. So by doing it that way, we're going to have a higher likelihood of actually connecting with all of our people on a regular basis. All right. Now you can add a lot of different stuff in here. So, you want to make sure that you're always getting people's phone number, their email, and their home address at a minimum. You want those 3 pieces of information, right? Those 3 pieces. Now, in addition to that, I would also recommend asking stuff. So Spencer, you said you just moved. When did you move in?
It was would have been July 1st.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. So you see what I just did there? Now I have his home anniversary, right? Now, if you have clients that you're working with or past clients, you could go back and automate these things. And one of the things I'm going to show you later is how we can now automate some of that messaging, all right, through smart plans. All right. So I've just now come in here and I've created various information, like put in all of his various information here. You can add custom fields as well, which we're not really going to get into now. Like, so for me as a team leader, most of my contacts in here are real estate agents at other brokerages, right? So some of the information that I like to track on those people is their production level. So I've created all of these custom fields so that I can track their production levels as well and update those, right? So I have the 12-month sales. So you can create custom fields for anything. So you could have a custom field for favorite sports team or for their favorite types of pie, right? One of the things that we've done the past few years is we've organized like big pie purchases around like Thanksgiving and Christmas or the holidays. And so all of our agents are able to send out letters to all of their people and say, listen, we're doing our big pie giveaway. Would you like to participate? And then now there are agents out there that will give people options, right? So you'll want to know what kind of pie do they like? Do they like apple or pumpkin or cherry or whatever, right? And so you could create a custom field for that. Any questions on creating a contact? Because all I'm going to do now is hit the create button and we're done. Any questions around creating a contact? No? Awesome. So now that once you've created a contact, Command will then kind of give you a contact card, as they call it, right? So on the left-hand side of this of the page is just the basic contact card. So it shows me Spencer's information here. And here, the nice part is that if I click these, it just copied his email, and it will now open up well, because I'm in incognito mode, it's opening up I have to sign in and everything again. But if I had my email app open already, it would have copied it. So now I can just go into Gmail, hit paste, and it's right there, right? If I want to make a phone call, I've connected my computer, because I'm on a Mac, with my cell phone. So I can actually make calls through my cell phone from Command through FaceTime, essentially. So this is going to open up FaceTime. And now I can make phone calls through here. This is like really simple, really easy way. And then what ends up happening now is I say, okay, spoke to Spencer during Ignite, right? And so now I'm just going to add a little note here. Living in Tampa, just moved to Broadbrook, near the Mass border. All right. So now I'm going to add this to the timeline. And now on the right-hand side here, you can see that I can keep track of things. This might seem like overkill, right? to keep that like notes on every single person. Except I just did that for one. Like Spencer, how often have we just met, right? And being that you're an agent in the Stanford office, we might not see each other all that often, right? We might not talk to each other all that often. So while it's probably a bit overkill to like keep these types of notes, and I would, with about like your significant other or your best friend, I might actually argue with that and say it's actually probably more important to keep these kind of notes, right? But when you're trying to do this for say 100 people or 1,000 people, or if you're going to shoot for the moon and if any of you are actually interested in building that millionaire real estate agent business, did Rick share with you how many people you need to have in your database for the average size of a database for a millionaire real estate agent? Did you guys talk about that at all?
No.
On average, the millionaire real estate agent typically needs about 7,500 people in their database. If you have 7,500 people and you're marketing that to them on a regular basis, you will build $1 million real estate business. However, try keeping track of preferences and notes and activities and stories and goals and dreams of 7,500 people, right? Now you're talking about a lot of memory. And I don't think that, I know that I certainly don't have that ability, right? However, by just keeping notes on every single call, it all of a sudden becomes much easier, right? And now let's say Spencer calls me up a month from now and says, "Hey Dan, I've been thinking I'm thinking about like moving back up to Connecticut full time, and I don't know if Broadbrook is going to be the right place for me to live like long term, or I'm looking for my own place or whatever." And now all of a sudden, I'm like, I don't remember who Spencer is, number one. I have no idea what he's talking about. Broadbrook, where the heck's Broadbrook, right? Except now I have these notes in here, right? It just makes that conversation a little bit easier. Make sense? I'm seeing some head nods. That's always good. I like seeing head nods. All right. So this will, along the right-hand side here, you can kind of keep a basic timeline of your interactions with people. There's a bunch of other stuff in here too. It connects with opportunities, which is your sales pipeline, so that you can, you can see, okay, if I have a listing or if this person's a buyer, we'll have that information here. This will also track all of their opportunities. So if you have if you have a client who's done multiple transactions or you have multiple transactions with, it will show them all here as well. It will also show you any smart plans. So as an example, so part of the reason why I asked for his address is because I wanted to find out what neighborhood he lives in. And so by adding his address to the contact, it automatically pulled him up and made his neighborhood the Broadbrook neighborhood. And now if I wanted to, and I'm going to, sorry, Spencer, I'm going to add him to my monthly neighborhood nurture, which is essentially going to send him an email once a month with neighborhood relevant information about what's going on in the real estate market in Broadbrook. So it'll send him an email of all of the new active listings, all of the pending listings, the recent sales, average price points, average days on market, right? It's essentially relevant real estate information, and you can add any of your people to it. Have you and Rick talked about like a 36 touch program? Yeah? No? All right. This is one step to building that. And he will talk to you more about that once you've actually generated the leads. Okay. But this is kind of the first part about it. And these are the smart plans essentially. All right. Any questions on adding a contact and kind of like using your contacts? No?
Yeah, so for someone like me who's like going to move from Broadbrook to Stanford,
Sure.
after all of let's say you work with a client who is moving from Broadbrook to Stanford, you just update their info on their client card, and then it will or will it automatically update like the smart plan to change neighborhood?
No, so you'd have to update the card, right? So if you were to move to Stanford, I'd need to know that and I'd need to update the system. It's not going to know that automatically unless I do that. However, if I were to come in here and change your address, it would automatically change the neighborhood. And you can add additional, like, so you can see there's also suggested neighborhoods here as well. So there's a bunch of different areas that you can do, and you can just actually view these on a map. So if I hit the preview button here, in addition to sending the monthly neighborhood email, it also creates like kind of a landing page using all of the MLS data for Broadbrook. Right, so it's showing all the homes that are on the market in that neighborhood. It allows you to, to search, get neighborhood stats. All right, so there's 18 homes for sale. There are 6 pending, average days on market, right? All of these things, current stats, sold stats. If I put in Spencer's work email, it will actually automatically show commuting times, schools, places. So these are all like kind of coming from Yelp and Google. And you can also, as an agent, kind of update these and create your own. So it's showing like kind of like the local hotspots. And then it has a basic contact card at the bottom. Make sense? So this would be updated as soon as you update the actual address, it would update as well. Cool. Now the other way, so the first way of getting people into your database is just by adding them, right? And that's really good for people that you already know. But if your goal is to build $1 million real estate business and you need to get to at least 7,000 contacts in order to do that, it might take you a while to do that, right? To add that many people. I mean, if you added one person a day to your database or to your sphere of influence, any guesses on roughly how long you were going to need to take to get there? Anybody want to do some quick math? Right? You're looking at like 20 years to get up to 7,000. So the other question is, how can we generate more leads and get more people into our database? And that's where our Facebook lead accelerator comes in. So we have a great system here. It's proprietary to Keller Williams because we built it in partnership with Google and Facebook using Google artificial intelligence and Facebook's artificial intelligence and our artificial intelligence. We created what we call our campaigns applet. And what this does in our campaign applet essentially allows us to run paid advertising. And you can do it through social media, you can do it through email, and you can do it through direct mail as well. So there's 3 ways you can run a campaign. So this is going to give you a target here, and you can ignore the goals because I'm not actually doing these things, but I use my command as an example for when I'm in recruiting appointments and things like that. All right. And so it's going to tell me and it gives you all of these stats around the various campaigns that you're going to run. It gives you some quick posts here that you can use for social media that Keller Williams has created for you that you can really easily customize. And then there's also training down here at the bottom. But so let's say that, so for instance, I'm going to be listing my home this week, or I'm not, but my agent will be listing my home this week. So if I wanted to run a social ad for my home, I'm going to click on create a new campaign, and then I'm just going to click social ad paid. Now you need to have a Facebook business page in order to do this. All right. So I'm going to put let's place listing ad. All right. I'm going to set the goal as to advertise a listing or to attract listings. All right. And I want this to go on Facebook and Instagram. And I'm going to hit set up campaign. And it's just that simple. Oh, crap. They're right, I did. I changed my Facebook password. All right, so this isn't actually going to work, but I can show you how to do it. All right, so I'm going to name the goal, and now I need to find the listing. So I'm going to hit find listing. It's not active yet, so I'm going to go to all statuses. I'm going to select all listings because it's not actually active yet. And then in the property address, I'm just going to put in my property, my address here. Let's see if the old one comes up. It doesn't look like it did. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to select any old listing. All right. Yep, I know. So now this is connected to the MLS. So it's pulling the listing photos straight from the MLS. It's also connected to my business page. So it's already putting in my logo and my business name. It already added the logo to the bottom right-hand corner. It pulled in the main copy from the listing as well, which I'm going to change. And then it gives you some options here. So the key with these Facebook ads is that you really want to keep things kind of short, pithy, and fun, right? So live by the water. Live by the water, earn extra income. What else could you want? Click learn more below, and then let's add a couple emojis in here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to add some emojis before this. Whoops. So I'm going to add some emojis in here. Let's see if we can add beach. Perfect. Sun. All right, cool. Click learn more below. People like emojis, so you want to keep it kind of fun. And I'll add that again because why not? I'm going to add 3 of them actually. To learn more about this home and others in this up and coming neighborhood. You want to try to keep them relatively short. So this is even like, I would say possibly a little bit long, but you want to kind of keep them short. You want to kind of fun, and you want to draw attention down to this learn more button, because as soon as people click on that, they capture your information. All right. Great home, great neighborhood, great price. I'm just going to say click learn more to find out more about this home. And let's add again some more emojis. Why not? Everybody likes emojis. I don't know. It's what they like. So we'll add lots of emojis because it kind of makes it fun. All right, so I'm going to save the ad text. Now add media. It's pulling up one listing. So if I go to add more, it'll pull up all the other listing photos from the property. So I'm going to pull that one in. I'm going to pull this one because I like that view of the water through the window there. Yep, I'm going to save that. And you can add up to 6 of these. And that's all I'm going to add because this house does not have very good, I'll add another one of the waterfront here. All right, this house does not have like great views or great interior features, right? But it does have this really nice feature, which is that it's got a nice view of the harbor. All right, we're going to add the DBA logo. I'm going to save media. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go back and change. I'm not going to bother because I'm not actually running this ad. Now you can configure you want to configure your ads. You're going to pick your account. I can't actually do this because I have to reconnect my account because I changed my password again, remember. All right. Use Facebook lead generation form. All right, you're gonna want, so again, this is gonna be problematic just because I have to reconnect my account, but you've gotta, you wanna use the Facebook lead generation form because that's gonna capture their information, their name, phone number, and email as soon as they hit this learn more button and drop it to you. All right, and then you get to target. Now you wanna target a custom audience. So for this, I'm actually gonna target New York, just because that's where we're finding the vast majority of our people are coming from. So you can then pick, New York and pick a radius. And then you can actually also target by interests. So you could, some of the interests, I mean, there's a bunch of them on here. I actually heard a story the other day of somebody actually selected all of the interests. They literally just targeted everyone and anybody and said, I'm not going to try and figure out who these people, like these buyers, are going to be. I'm literally just going to pick every single one. Because I don't care who they are either, right? Like a buyer is a buyer, a seller is a seller. Doesn't really matter. And so I don't know if that's a great strategy, but I would say depending on your budget, it might be. So they literally just targeted every single one of these audiences, but you can kind of pick and choose, right? So maybe you want to target people that have something to do with real estate. So real estate investing or a real estate entrepreneur. Maybe you want to do, let's see if there's something for water or boating, maybe. Nothing. Outdoors. I don't know. There's a bunch of ways that you can essentially target people based on their interests through Facebook. The key with this is because this is a real estate ad, Facebook does limit the things that we're allowed to target because we have to meet fair housing guidelines. All right. So once you've selected your target, you're going to come in here and you have all of your interests now selected. You then need to create a budget. Now, best practices recommends a budget of at least $3 per channel per day. All right, and that's just $3 tends to be kind of a level that Facebook kind of all of a sudden will start giving you more attention, I guess, right? As soon as you hit that $3 mark, so they'll start kind of giving you a little bit more attention, and your lead per cost goes way up, or your cost per lead goes way down, depending on how you want to look at it. All right. So if I'm going to run this for, say, what do we got? 10 days here. I want to have a budget of at least, and because I'm running this on both Facebook and Instagram, I'm going to want a total budget of at least $60, which is $3 per channel per day. You can distribute evenly, or you can use automatic placements, which means it will push your money to whichever one is getting the better result. If that makes sense. Okay. You hit save duration and budget. Now you have a preview of what the ad is going to look like on the side here. And you can see, okay, that's the Facebook preview. This is the mobile version of Facebook, what it's going to look like. So you see how as soon as I go to mobile, all of a sudden, all of my writing is too long, right? It all gets jumbled. So that's why you want to really keep things short and pithy here, right? Click learn more below. And so maybe I want to eliminate all of this. right? So that, and these last two emojis, so that it actually looks pretty nice and even here, right? And then we also have an Instagram story, all right, where it's going to look like this, and then it'll have the text on the bottom of it, all right? So you get a preview of what these will look like. Look good? Sound good? Now, I'm not going to save this, obviously, because it's A, not my listing, and B, it's not connected. But if you come in here and you look at some of the ads, like, so this was a listing test that I did. Most of the ads I've tried have been for like career nights and things like that. So I ran one for career night, a 6-day ad, and I had an average lead cost about $2.50. Right way back in the beginning, like this was like, I don't know, probably almost a year ago, I did one and it cost me about $12 a lead. What we're finding right now is we're actually finding about like $2 to $3 per lead. Some people are finding them even lower than that. And what ends up happening is all of these leads will come in here through your notifications bell at the top right. All right. And then when you come into contacts, that all of their information is automatically put into your contacts. And as soon as I let this load, if you come to smart views, I'm sorry, for filters, not smart views, but filters, you can filter things out. You can filter them out by leads only. So these are all of the leads that have come in through the various like campaigns that I've run. All right. Make sense? Sound good? All right. Do you have any questions around Facebook? I mean, so here's the thing. The Facebook lead campaigns is one of the most powerful tools that any real estate agent has right now to generate low-cost leads. So we have a number of like pretty big agents in our areas that are just starting to do these. The nice thing about it is this is like levels the playing field for everybody, right? Because anybody can run these leads now. You don't need to be spending $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 a month on Zillow to generate 30, 40 leads. You can now turn around and spend $50, $100 a month and generate the same number of leads with roughly the same conversion rate. Make sense? Any questions around this? Please, feel free to unmute yourself if you do. Nobody? Nobody?
Dan, this is Neil. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so Dan, I was just curious, how is the lead generator inside Command different than if I do the lead setup directly using my Facebook business page and manager?
Sure. Two things. Number one, the Facebook, the Command lead accelerator is connected to the MLS, so it's automatically pulling those, pulling all of the photos and the listing information in. That's the first thing. So it's just easier. It's just a little bit easier to actually run those ads. You can like kind of just do it a little bit simpler. The setup for it is also just much simpler. So if you haven't run Facebook ads and things like that before, it's just easier to use, I would say. The third reason, I know I said two before, but the third reason is that we actually built this using our artificial intelligence. So Keller Williams has built its own proprietary AI that is tuned to real estate. And they've done that in partnership for our lead accelerator with Facebook. So as opposed to you running an ad and then letting Facebook's AI kind of try to figure out who to push the ad in front of, by using it through Command, it's using our artificial intelligence as well, which is why our results have been so much better. So the average cost per lead for Facebook ads is typically, or online ads in general, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, things like that, tends to be around that $6 to $8 range. And part of the reason why and that's the main reason is that we've been able to get better results is because of our artificial intelligence. The difference is Facebook, when you run an ad directly with Facebook, the only feedback that you're getting is from your ads. What's ended up happening now is we have 160,000 real estate agents, and not all of them are running Facebook ads through command, but a lot of them are. And a lot of people are running a lot of ads. And so our artificial intelligence is able to take all of that data and make our ads better, target them better, focus them better. So what you might see is you might not see many leads in the first couple of days. And then all of a sudden by the end, not really the end, because by the end, Facebook kind of tends to pull those ads back a bit and focus more on fresh ads. But like around like that 5, 6, 7 day mark, all of a sudden the leads start rolling in because like the AI is picking up on it. All right. A fourth reason from Bogdan, right? Because all of our ads are being funneled through KW, like we get a much bigger ad spend, right? It's like one company spending a whole crap ton of money on ads with Facebook. So we have like kind of like a preferred like vendor relationship with them, right? Where we're actually partners with Facebook. And then the other, really just from a simplistic standpoint, is that all of the leads go straight into command.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're running them through Facebook, you're getting that information in Facebook. And then you have to then add them to whatever system you want to use to communicate with them later on. So there's, I would say, so there's 5. There's 5 reasons to use command instead of doing it directly through Facebook. Does that help? Who
Yes.
asked that question?
Yes, me, I did, Alicia. Yeah, yeah, that's very good. Thank you. Mostly I was wondering if, it was more cost effective using command, which it sounds like, yes. And it sounds like mostly like the quality of the leads. So it sounds like maybe there is, because of the AI, and maybe there's some more intelligence in the targeting to the audience.
Absolutely. The other nice thing about, most internet leads, the way most internet leads are developed is that if you use like a Boomtown, for instance, right? Or if you use like a Google pay-per-click type service, similar to Boomtown, or you use even Zillow, right? Zillow, like all of those websites are trying to get people's attention and pique their interest and trying to convince them to ask, like, do you want more information, right? And they're essentially kind of trying to funnel those people to a squeeze page where that person then has to enter their information. So once people get to that point and they just want whatever information they want, they know that they can put in whatever information into those pages as possible. So you can get Daffy Duck at phone number 203-834-1234, right? Or, whatever. And so they can put bogus phone numbers and bogus emails in there. Facebook is actually using people's Facebook profiles. So whatever phone number and whatever email address they have on file with Facebook that they used in order to set up their Facebook account, that's the information you're getting. So you're not going to get Daffy Ducks, right? Or Miss Piggies or whatever, right? Like you're going to get people's real names. You might get some outdated emails and phone numbers, especially if like they're people like me who's been on Facebook since like, I think my college was like the 14th college to be put onto Facebook. So I don't even know what email address I used when I started my account, but it was probably like my old college email address. Actually, I know it was because you had to have a college email address in order to get on Facebook back then, right? So my email address is probably bogus and it probably wouldn't work. However, my phone number is probably solid. And here's the thing, even if you don't know that, you still have somebody's name. And that can go a long way in trying to get in touch with people, right? And you have their real name. So the information you get from using these platforms tends to be a lot better than you get from like a lot of other online lead sources. All right, somebody else had a question. I think it was you, Niels, right?
Yeah, I just had a very simple question. This is great, by the way, so thank you for taking the time. The simple question is, where can we get more of this command training? I'm new to the practice. I haven't really spent a lot of time. I still have a full-time job in New York. I'm in sales, and so I'm trying to segue away from that into the role of real estate and kind of taking onus of my own career here. But I would like to get more of this hands-on training on command. So where would we be able to do that? Is it online, or is it more of these Ignite tutorials, or what have you?
So we have a lot of training. So we do have a lot of it online. Like if you go to our YouTube page, there's a bunch of training on there. We do a training every single day. It's something we call our 66-day command training. Have you guys, how many people have read The One Thing? How many people have never heard of The One Thing?
I've never heard of it.
Okay. It's a book that Gary Keller and Jay Papasan and David Jenks wrote. And in there, they found that based on various research, everybody's tends to, the research tends to be a little bit varied, but if you kind of aggregate it and average it, it takes on average, about 66 days to form a habit. And so part of The One Thing is about building better habits. And so they've created what we call at KW our 66-day challenge. So every morning on our 9 o'clock call, we take part in what we call our in what's called the 66-day challenge. And that's been run by a productivity coach out of Texas. His name is Marty Miller. So if you'd like to kind of get a really good introduction to command from start to finish, go to Marty Miller's YouTube page, and you could start from the very beginning. He just started one about 3 weeks ago, his 4.0 command 66-day challenge, which we're running right now. We just did day 15 today, or day 14 today. So we're about 2 weeks into ours. But he does a really good overview, kind of step by step. And if there's short videos, I think today's video was 3.5 minutes. Some of them are 10 minutes. The longest ones are maybe 10 minutes or so. And those are really good deep dives. And then we also have training that we do in with the Market Center on using DocuSign, on using Facebook leads. We've had, I will admit that we've had most of our training has had a very heavy focus on DocuSign and opportunities lately, just because we were going through a hard transition there, where everybody was forced to use DocuSign and Command now, and they had to kind of give up the old system that we had. So we have been focused more on that lately, but starting in August and through September, we'll be getting back into and doing way more of these kind of deep dives into things around lead generation and using Command. The various aspects, because there's a lot to it. I mean, there's designs, just as an overview, we have a design builder, which has a ton of templates in here for just designing nice marketing pieces, right? So there's email templates in here, there's landing page templates in here, social posts. That's what I've tend to build in. And you can create, as many of these as you want. I mean, there's literally hundreds of templates that you can work off of. These are just the ones that I've created. So these are the templates that I've made. And I've made over 100 of them, evidently. It's really simple and easy to use. You have it in here as well. Whoops, I clicked the wrong button. Our sales pipeline, our referral network. This is a big one. A lot of people don't know this, but you can actually, if you click on the map here in our referrals network, this will allow you to find a Keller Williams agent anywhere in the world. And the new feature that they just launched is Referral Patterns. So you can actually see where people are moving to and moving from. based on where the referrals are going to. So these are all outbound referrals. Now, if I want to see where people are coming from, I can go inbound referrals. So you can see here that, now they're pretty spread out. We don't have a ton of people moving to Ridgefield, Connecticut. But if we do Stamford, Connecticut, let's say Stamford's a little bit bigger, maybe we'll have some more here, right? Again, you can kind of see now this gives you the ability now to see like where are referrals coming from to our market centers. If you want to do New York, right? Where are referrals coming from? Right? So 16% of them are within New York. That's kind of interesting, right? This is kind of just it could be a very powerful tool to do that.
Dan,
right?
I don't see your screen.
Oh, did I stop sharing? I just stopped sharing, I guess. My apologies. Thanks for letting me know that. So, all right, so that kind of wraps up our dive into Command. I hope that the contacts card, honestly, this is one of the most powerful tools you will have to building your database and also building relationships. I will tell you that before I started using Command, I very rarely had people telling me, Dan, you have such a great memory. Like, how do you remember all of this stuff? And it's not that I have a great memory, it's just that I take really good notes. So every time I have lunch with a person or I talk to them on the phone, I just take notes on those things and keep them in a system. And that's a system you can use now to build your relationships and drive your business. All right. I think Rick is back now, so he can, he's going to continue the second half of the class. There he is, hanging out with Wilson.
Hi, guys. Dan, could you pass the hosting capabilities back to me, please?
If I have to.
You do. Seat control. I know it's not in your nature. There we go.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this was helpful. And have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, Dan.
Bye.
All righty. So there was a quick pass through how Command can assist you in doing some of the things that we've covered in our first week together. Yes? Oh, Spencer shaved. So are you guys hearing me? You are? Okay.
Yes.
All right. I have had, so here's what I will say. I have had struggles with internet in my little studio here all day today. And so if all of a sudden I'm cutting out, because you guys are all kind of frozen. Like I can't see. I'm certain Spencer had a reaction to me noticing he shaved his beard off, but I can't see it because he's frozen in time. And so, yeah, medium quality at best. Do you mean the shaving or the Zoom? Ha, 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 ha. Get it? All right. So some of you are smiling, so at least some of you heard it. All right. All right, so we're going to do the best we can. We're looking into why I'm struggling here today. And if for whatever reason things start to go sideways and I start to freeze on you or you're not hearing what I'm saying, don't waste time. Just pop it in the chat. We'll see if we can't fix it. And if not, we'll simply finish early. I shouldn't tell you this because then when you get bored, you'll just say, can't hear you, can't hear you. It's like when you're driving, right? And you don't want to talk to somebody. Right? That wasn't Zoom. That was me playing with somebody on the phone. All right. So give me a quick, I have mastered that indeed. That and the phrase, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going in a tunnel. I'll clear it. So tell me what you heard, what you learned from your hour with Dan. What did you hear or see that you want to repeat and make sure that everybody remembers was kind of a cool thing?
It's incredibly powerful,
Yeah.
and you really want to master it because it will help you be very successful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's,
Database is the key.
say it again, Bogdan.
Your database is the key to your
Yeah.
success.
It is. It is. I've known Gary Keller for 16, almost 17 years, and he has been saying since the very first minute I entered his organization, your business is your database. 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 Right? And so it's kind of ironic that here now, 16, 17 years later, he's just built a tool to confirm what he's known and worked with all along, right? The bigger you grow your database, the bigger you grow your business. Even if you don't know anybody, I mean, let me put this on the table for you. When I started in real estate in 1972, I think it was when I first got licensed. That's a joke. More of you should have been completely puzzled. How could he possibly have been licensed in 1972? So in 1999, when I actually was late 98 when I got licensed, I had just moved to Ridgefield. I didn't know anybody, right? And so I didn't have a database. The only database I had were people from Long Island and New York, where I grew up and spent, my college days. And so I didn't know anybody here. So the idea of work the database was like, okay, how am I supposed to do that? Does anybody else have that same scenario that your database is either limited because you haven't been here very long, or maybe you're just not a terribly friendly person and you don't have a whole lot of friends? That was both of things for me. Nobody knew me, and people who did know me didn't like me very much. So it was like, well, what am I going to do now with a database? So if that's you, understand that you then have to dive into the strangers side of things, right? You need to start building a database. And yeah, see, so Melanie knows what I'm talking about. Not being disliked, she knows what it's like to just move from someplace and not know anybody, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then Spencer's going to rub it in by saying, yeah, he's just moving back to Connecticut after graduating from college. So for those of us who aren't 22 anymore, la-di-da to you. See, I refrained from saying, oh, look, Spencer shaved, he looks like a baby. And now I can say it because you are a baby. My son's 23rd birthday was yesterday. You're probably younger than him, right? No? Okay, good. There used to be a rule in this company that we weren't allowed to hire anyone younger than me. That would exclude most of the people on this call nowadays. So it got harder and harder to grow a business with that rule. Well, see, Donna puts in that she doesn't have any interest in being 22 again. I would like to be 22 again, but know everything I know at 50. That's my caveat. And I can kind of redo some of those things. Donna's still saying, no, get over it, but I hear you. So recognize that you have a massive opportunity to find strangers in your world via expireds for sale by owners and open houses, right? We covered some of those on Friday. We're going to cover the rest tonight. And so if your database is limited for whatever reason, your opportunity is to build the database, and sometimes it's building it with strangers, because over time strangers become Mets, and then Mets become your sphere, right? They become friends, family. They become all those things that some of us look at our database in the beginning and say, oh, you know what? I think I'm behind the 8 ball. So know that you have, you can build it either way. Use what you've got is my thought, right? If you have a robust database of people that you already know and they're local, then use it, dive into them. If you don't have that kind of database, well, then just start building it. Right? Build it based on the people you see every day. Is your dry cleaner in your database? Is the person who sold you your last car in your database? Is your doctor in your database? Are the people at your bank in your database? Right? I just referred somebody, somebody that I've been working on for 2 years at my bank, because she told me 2 years ago that her and her husband were going to start looking for a house. And I've been bugging her for 2 years. Like, you work in the bank. Like, money shouldn't be an issue. They're going to give you the money. You're going to get your loan from them. So don't worry about that. Save your down payment and let's get going. Stop renting. Stop wasting your money. And I've been bugging her for 2 years. And finally she said, would you still help me? Sure. Right? And I refer her to one of you. So understand that anybody you come in contact with and everybody you come in contact with may be an opportunity and should be added to your database. Let me tell you a quick story. For those of you who have never been to the Austin Southwest Market Center, that is Market Center number 1. That's Gary's first office. It is no longer the largest real estate office on the planet because the Heritage Market Center in San Antonio has now taken that title away from the Austin Southwest Market Center. But for most of its existence for the last 35 years, the Austin Southwest Market Center has not only been the largest Keller Williams office in the country and now in the world, but has been the largest single office real estate office on the planet. They probably right now have over 900 agents in their office, which is an enormously large office. The San Antonio Heritage office now has almost 1,100 agents in their office, though. So they are number 2, Austin. And so here's the point. The point is, brand new real estate agent to that office, their office lives in more of a corporate setting. And so for those of you in the Stamford Market Center, that's more of the setting of the Austin Southwest than those of you in the Ridgefield Market Center, where it's just a little more country, right? And so it's just a little bit more rock and roll. What's that reference to? Who knows that? Aha, that'll date some of you. Donnie and Marie, baby. So the idea of finding business for this particular brand new licensee in this enormous office was kind of daunting. And about 3 months after this person started, they listed the condo of the guy who sat in at the doorman's desk in this corporate building, and then also sold him and his family another house. So the condo was probably a $300,000 or $350,000 house, and then he sold them another $500,000 or $600,000 house. So $1 million worth of volume in Austin, Texas, 3 months, 90 days into his career. And a ton of people inside of that market center would ask, like, what? So did you know the guy downstairs before you were licensed? Like, how did that all come to play? Because of course those same people walk past this same guy every single day, just like this brand new agent did. And the agent responded to each of them and said, no, I just met him, 86 days ago when I started here. He was nice enough to point me to the elevators and point me to where the office was and give me some pointers on weekend access and whatnot. And so like I was taught, I got his information and I put him in my database, and I've just been communicating with him. And 84 days later, he reached out and said, I so appreciate you communicating with me as often as you do. I have this opportunity and I wondered if you could help me out. So the other 900 people who walked past that guy every single day and even probably said hi and knew his name and never stopped and actually got his contact information, put him in the database and started the process, except this one guy who got $1 million worth of business out of it within 90 days. So the question will be, which side do you fall on, right? Are you going through your world saying, okay, who's missing from this database? If I'm going to start building this database to be communicating with, who am I missing? How am I plugging everybody into it? And again, when you start to communicate with your database, remember they can start with simple care calls. They don't necessarily have to go right to business calls. So, speaking of diving in and communicating with your database, if you would all please put in the chat box, I'm going to show you what I'm looking for. If you would put in the chat box something that looks like this. So that's 1/1, and that means I got my one appointment out of the one that I was searching for last week. So whatever your goal is the second number, and your first number is what you actually accomplished. Now, this is not a judgment exercise. It's just a reality exercise, right? You need to have X number of appointments out of so many. And so just honestly report that in, and then we're just going to talk about how that went down for you. So you look at that, that's spectacular. Hey, John, how do you have a half an appointment? All right, I get it. See, in my world, that would be rounded up to 2, just to push you a little bit.
That's 3 out of every 2 weeks.
All right. We'll work with it. So awesome. So a whole bunch of you were obtained some of the appointments that you were looking for, right? Others of you made care calls. Others of you pursued appointments and didn't actually find an appointment. That's okay too. Again, it doesn't make you a terrible human being. It doesn't make you a bad real estate agent. It doesn't make you a bad business person. It just says in the last 7 days, you didn't secure an appointment, right? So for those of you who secured appointments, talk to me a little bit and talk to your colleagues. What did you do to secure those appointments, right? So remember, these are new business appointments. So that means a brand new seller or a brand new buyer. So what did you do? How'd you find them? Inquiring minds want to know. Not a soul, huh? So it starts to make me wonder whether those numbers are as real as you typed. Come on, tell me. Hey, Spencer, go ahead.
So I'm going through and I'm calling people that still live in Connecticut that I went to high school with that are now graduated from college and getting jobs and moving around the state. So I have one appointment with a good friend of mine, and now I don't know what to do.
Buyer appointment or a seller appointment?
Buyer appointment.
Got it. Okay, so we'll assist you in that. When is that appointment?
It's going to be a Zoom call, so it can be anytime early next week.
Got it. So we're going to dive into buyers on Wednesday, so that might assist. Typically, we do sellers first because so many of you are finding so many buyers out there with this push and influx from New York. We're going to switch things around this time. We're going to start buyers on Wednesday and go through what that looks like, and as well as go through an example of what a Zoom buyer consult kind of looks like, right? How many of you have done those before, a Zoom buyer consult, right? So a couple of you, right? Excellent. So I may just choose one of you to kind of run through that with me. But we'll show you exactly what to do and talk more about that on Wednesday. And so if the appointment was earlier than this week, then we'd do something a little different. We'd connect you with somebody. But if you have a little smidge of time, we can actually get that in. What else? So that's database conversations, right? Spencer's dialing through a database. What else? Where else did you get your appointments from? Donna.
So I got one followed up from an open house that I had held. And then another one, the agent referral one, but I talked about that the last time. And then I had someone call on a sign on a listing. Not necessarily, they're thinking about selling their house and they're in the area. And so they called off of the sign that's in front of a different listing.
Beautiful. Love that, right? And so one of the things I want to point out about that is Donna had 2 results from active, outbound, doing the do activities. And what I have learned over time is that when something falls from the sky, it doesn't just fall from the sky because it fell from the sky. It fell from the sky because of the activities that you're currently doing, right? If Donna wasn't focused on finding appointments, those kinds of things that seem to just drop from the sky don't drop. P.S. She also had to take that listing and market the listing in order for that opportunity to come her way. So it's a reward on previous activity, right? Be careful that you don't give no credit to yourself for your activities for things that seemingly would have happened anyway. Because my experience is that that's not really the way it works. You got to put the time in and do the work. And what I mean by that is, I ask people all the time, where'd you get that business? Where did you get those appointments? And I ask them that because I want to make sure that they recognize what they're doing and the results that those activities bring so they can do them again. And sometimes people say, well, I didn't really do anything and somebody called me. Okay, well, are you sure you didn't do anything? Do you have them on a drip campaign, right? Did you, well, I haven't spoken to them in a month. Okay, well, what else has gone on in that month? Well, they received 3 emails and my quarterly mailing went out. So they probably received something in the mail. Okay, so you didn't do nothing. There was activity behind all of that. And even if somebody calls completely out of the blue, not on your listing, not in your database, and you have no idea who this person is, that's the activity of you staying focused on the activities that matter, and somebody upstairs just saying, you know what, I think Donna Gilbert needs a little bit of a break. So we're going to just drop this one right in that pocket of hers because she's doing all the right things. And if the results aren't necessarily showing up directly, every once in a while, you get a bone thrown, which is the indirect result of your activities. Donna.
So let me just add to that, because until you said that, I hadn't linked up the fact that I drove over and put the little sign rider on that says pending. So not only do I have a listing in the neighborhood, but I got I let the world know, or the neighborhood know, that we actually are under contract now. And until you just said that, I didn't realize that was the action that made the person who wants to sell their house call me.
Yep. So true. So true. If you think those little things don't mean everything, right, you're missing the boat. And so that's great. Thank you for that follow-up, because you tell people what to do, right, by either your words or your actions. And in that case, Donna took an action that allowed people to say, oh man, she put that sign up and now it's pending. That's interesting. Maybe we need to talk to her about getting the job done for us. Right? Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Anything else? Anybody else want to tell us how you got your appointment?
I miss open houses. I was with you a week. I had an open house and someone walked in. I was brand new, and I actually went into contract that night in one day. Yep. I'll never forget that. And I miss physical open houses.
So yeah, that's awesome. So I actually remember when that happened to you, Stephen Pratt.
And thanks to Debbie Orr.
Yeah, indeed. Right, I love it because I'm pretty certain that we were in Ignite together, your first Ignite, when that happened.
You're absolutely correct.
Yeah. Right, and so let's do this. Stephen just mentioned open houses. Donna mentioned open houses. Let's talk a little bit about open houses, right? Because I want to make sure that we dispel any myths about what is going on and what is not going on, and what you can do and what you can't do, and how the open house today is working, right? So first and foremost, let me ask you this question. If you have no listing inventory, are you able to host an open house? Yeah, absolutely you are, right? Because you just need to make a phone call to somebody who does have listing inventory and say, hey, is that seller okay with hosting physical open houses, right? So the question today is slightly different than it was 4 or 5 months ago, because you have to make sure that the seller is actually comfortable with having physical open houses. We do still have sellers who would prefer not to have the physical open house. I'm going to give you a workaround to that in a minute, right? And so knowing that physical open houses are not prohibited by the governor any longer, right? For a while that was we were kind of shut down from physical open houses. That has not been the case since May the 21st. And so physical open houses are in fact available to you. You need to find sellers who are okay with it, and you yourself need to be comfortable with it, right? From a business perspective, now please hear this from where I say it, right? This is not a judgment. It's just perspective, right? Because I respect anybody who says, yeah, I'm not hosting an open house right now. Thank you very much, right? What I would encourage you to do though is, if you're feeling that way, think about two things. Think about going to the supermarket, right? Because for the most part, we're buying food, right? And so having some folks come to a physical open house nowadays is probably, if you structure it properly, you come into contact with far fewer people than going to the supermarket to buy your food. So I would just put perspective around that decision, and then decide, instead of no, I can't, ask yourself the question, how can I create a safe environment to move forward with open houses, right? I've been doing some one-on-ones this week with some folks in the office, and we've been having some interesting conversations around that because there are some people who are less excited about going back to physical open houses. And so my thought about solving that issue is do appointment-only open houses. So let's talk about that version first, and then we'll go back to kind of the free-for-all open house. The appointment-only open house says that you're marketing the open house to the general public, however you're doing that, whether you're doing that to your database or via social media, however you're getting that word out there, right? And perhaps you're going to hold the house open. You still need to call it an open house, because buyers are looking for the open house version of open houses, right? So you kind of have to trick them a little bit and say, yes, we're hosting an open house. And then underneath that, with a little asterisk, it says, please text me for your appointment slot. And maybe it says, to keep everyone safe, please text me for your personalized solo appointment slot. So that people understand that you're not trying to entrap them into having some appointment with you. You're just trying to keep everybody safe and yet still allow them an opportunity to come on into the open house. Now, what that means then is you might have an open house from 12 to 1 on a Sunday. And you've got now 4 slots, right? You've got 4 15-minute slots for potential buyers or visitors to come through. What I love about that is you don't have to sit around for an entire afternoon hoping someone arrives, right? You keep it short and sweet. And if you don't have anyone text you with appointments, don't go. Because it's an appointment-only open house, right? Now, you can make decisions about whether or not you are okay with going anyway and having the free-for-all version of an open house. But remember, the idea of the appointment-only open house is to create comfort for either you as the agent or the sellers who are struggling with having people come through their home, right? So make your decisions based on on the comfort level that you and the sellers have. But the appointment only open house simply allows you more control over who comes through the house. Yeah, Donna.
So you know that I did this.
Yes.
And you know how much I love you and hang on every word. And yet I did a little different than that. So
Yeah, go for it.
I led straight up with the fact that, you know, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to wear a mask. I laid everything out up front because frankly, I wasn't comfortable with a lot of things. So if they weren't willing to follow my orders, don't come. Is basically my email, my advertisement kind of said that. So, and they still came and they did everything they were supposed to. Now on Sunday, so I had people who came on Saturday and they did everything in advance. On Sunday, I had no appointments. And yet, because I had promised the owners that I was going to be having an open house on Sunday, I did go. And I'm glad I did because it didn't turn into a free-for-all. They just happened to text me between the hours that I was there. And I said,
so certainly.
So I said, yeah, I have some slots open, as though, you know, I'm like fitting them in. I didn't tell them I had nothing. I was like, oh yes, you can be here at 1:15. Absolutely, I have an opening there. And so, you know, if I had not gone, I wouldn't have, you know, it was just easier. And it made the owner said, oh, I didn't know we had appointments on Sunday. And I said, neither did I, but they texted in advance. And so it all worked out. But I'm glad that you just show up, what you were saying before, show up and do what you said you were going to do. Just do the activity and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the fact that I guess in my head, you know, I've been setting up Calendly a lot for appointment setting, and I set that link up where you can't book something right within 5 hours or something of the appointment time, simply because if I allow people to book closer, I won't know that I need to make that slot available. And so if you've already decided to keep that hour for the quote unquote open house, then absolutely. And if you don't get people texting during the open house, you know, call the neighbors, do some lead generation, do whatever, catch up on work. So great point. Does that help with kind of limiting exposure on the open house type thing?
Absolutely. I'm going to do that as soon as possible.
Yeah, I love that, Mariana. And so here's another version of this. If you have someone you can do it with, right? So the other version of kind of safer open houses or more comfortable open houses is that you do a tag team. And so you host a 2-hour open house, and one of you is the inside person and one of you is the outside person. And so for hour number 1, like I'm on the inside and Stephen's on the outside. And what Stephen does on the outside is he manages the people on the outside. So if you're not doing appointment only and you're just saying, come on down, well, now there's an actual person standing on the front porch saying, okay, you're number 6, and then you're number 7, and you're number 8. Generally speaking, Rick is on the inside and he takes about 10 or 12 minutes with each couple. So you can expect your time to be this. And now you have somebody on the outside kind of chatting people up and building some kind of relationship with them, only to then let them in one at a time so the person on the inside can give the tour. And then in hour number 2, you switch, right? Because it's hot outside and it's air conditioned on the inside. So you don't want to have the same person on the outside for the whole 2 hours. And then you guys would determine how you would handle those leads. Perhaps Stephen and I just decide that whoever comes that day, regardless of who works with them and moves forward to a contract, we're just splitting those leads that day. Or maybe we decide that while I'm sweating on the outside, right, building rapport with people, those people who show up then ultimately would be mine, and vice versa. Or maybe to determine hour one is anybody who comes is mine, and hour two is, whatever you decide. But you see how that could work as well. If there's more than one of you, you have some more control over people coming and going. Yes? Cool.
Can I give?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I give one more option? Because I did, my Foxwood property went live, so I had an open house Saturday and Sunday, and the home is virtually empty. I mean, there's just some pieces of furniture. Nobody can slip anything in their pocket type of thing. So Neil and I actually had a little setup outside in the shade. We had our little chairs and a little table. And so we had a conversation when people came, had them fill out the form. We chatted. I got some information, chatted them up. Then I said, why don't you just take a little spin through, and when you come out, we'll talk. And they did. They went all through, and then we debriefed on the other end. And again, handing them the form, they filled everything out, whether everybody's so used to, just in case if there's COVID or something and we have to get in touch with you. And I said, and also so we can follow up. I didn't mislead them. But people are really willing to do what they need to have to be able to see houses. And but here's the other thing. So there weren't crowds. So we had two people in case, like you said, there was a crowd control issue. It wasn't crowds, but everybody who came had a really high motivation. One woman's house had already been sold. She's living in her in-laws' basement. It's like everybody had issues, and that's why they were there. They were real.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love where Donna went is that, because the idea of hosting open houses, right, is sometimes it's an information, a scarcity of information thing, right? You struggle getting real information from people. Well, guess what? Nowadays, if you're walking through a stranger's home, you don't get to go in until, and when I say fill out the form and maybe show me your license to make sure that the information is correct, right, and you are who you say you are, that's really important from a contact tracing perspective, in case all of a sudden somebody gets ill in the house, in the property who lives in the property that you're open housing. When they call you as when they call the listing agent, whether that's you or someone else, and then the listing agent, if it's not you calls you and says, just want you to know the seller tested positive. Well, now we've got to dial through all those open house people who came, right? And so it's really important to make sure that you get good information. And what Donna's offering to us is it's easier than ever because everyone's so used to that it's not weird for them, right? It's not weird to give that information. And as a matter of fact, you kind of can't let them in. I didn't like letting them in beforehand, but now it's absolutely required that you know who's in that house, right? So you're getting that information either on your iPad app or your phone app or your written piece of paper on a clipboard, however you're working that, right? Name, phone number, email address, perhaps their address, right? Answering some questions. What brought you to our open house today? Are you currently contracted with another real estate firm? Right? All those little questions so they can give you data that you can use to create more commonality and create opportunity, both for them and for yourselves. So John asks a great question. Aren't open houses restricted to only potential principals, no friends, no family? So the answer to that is, are they restricted? No. There's no hard and fast rule to that, right? And so I'm going to give you the clear answer here. There is no hard and fast rule. Does all the guidance from CTR and local boards and our organizations still focused on limiting the number of people inside of any house at any given time? Absolutely. Absolutely. So I would encourage, and here's the reason I want to give you that information in that way. I don't want to arm you with false data. I don't want, if asked about why the little children have to stay in the car, I don't want you to say because the governor says they can't come in, because that's simply not true, right? Instead, you get to say, so the seller has requested that we limit the number of people in the house to as few as possible. And so the way we're interpreting that is principles only, right? We would love to have, if you and your wife would both like to see the property, maybe one of you could stay in the car with the kids, one tours the home, and then you switch, right? So all of those kind of rules that we had in place during the whole lockdown period, the advice that we are giving and the guidance that we are receiving is to keep all of that in place, absolutely. Just know that it is, they're decisions that we and the sellers are making, not any kind of government imposed restriction at this time. I just want you to be armed with valid information. Does that help? Okay, cool. So let me ask this. How many people would freak out if the homework I gave for tonight through Wednesday was to schedule yourself at an open house for this weekend? And before you answer that, here's where I'll go. If you are licensed, right, and for those of you who are non-licensees, unfortunately, this is still one of those things that you kind of can't do, right? And in the old days, what we would say is, if you're unlicensed, go and find someone to shadow, right? You'll have to decide whether or not you think that's a good idea with someone who's doing one. The last thing I want to do is encourage more people, right? And so you going and shadowing at an open house is just one more body and one more opportunity to have more people. And, you know, unfortunately, the world is such that we still have to pay attention to those things. And so I'm not necessarily asking you to go and shadow somebody. You guys may just have to wait. You may have to wait until that license arrives to schedule that first open house, right? What you could do, if you so chose, was find someone who is doing an open house and FaceTime with them so that they can kind of keep you company. You're on FaceTime, so you're hearing what might be going on, right? Even though you're not physically there. So that could be something that you dive into. However, the homework that I will give for anyone who decides to do it is find yourself an open house. Like I said, if you were an open house hoster and you've pulled back from that, I would encourage you to figure out a way to get back on that horse. Because and that's not me saying, please put your business ahead of your health. That is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is, let's find ways for you to create comfort, because there are things that can be done. There are ways to create an open house that keeps you and everyone else safe, and you don't have to take a back seat to the potential for a business. And what I would encourage you to do is do it for 1 hour on either Saturday or Sunday. If you're just dipping your toe back into this pool, do it for 1 hour. That's the a potential of 4 different appointments, right? I spoke to somebody the other day who said, I said, are you doing open houses? No, I'm really not there yet. And I said, well, let me ask you this. Are you working with buyers? Yes. Well, I think it's the same thing, right? And so I'm helping to try and give some perspective. If you're meeting a buyer and showing them 4 different houses versus having an appointment only in one house with 4 potential different buyers, and everyone's masked and socially distant and one at a time, and you put all those protocols in place, I think you may be shooting yourself in the foot in terms of putting yourself in the path of business opportunity. So I'll say it one more time. That is not me saying, please put business ahead of your health, right? I think at the end of the day, you need to make a decision about what makes the best sense for you. I'm giving you options and opportunities that many of your colleagues have taken to be able to cruise forward with that and still feel confident and safe. Questions, comments, concerns about that? So here's what's fun. If you don't have listing inventory, if you have listing inventory, talk with your seller and see what the story is about hosting an open house this weekend. If they're a little leery, talk to them about, how about 1 hour appointment only? Right? Because someone who's not doing physical showings is certainly not going to allow an open house. But someone who is doing physical showings, I think that same idea applies, right? If you're going to say yes to 4 different agents with 4 different buyers at 4 different times over the course of the Saturday, well, what if we just kind of shortened that period, had those same 4 buyer potentials come in, we eliminate their agent because now it's just me, and we get the same amount of showings in a fraction of the time, and we don't have a free-for-all, right? So maybe help people make sense of that as you're talking to them. If you don't have inventory, your opportunity is to connect with a listing agent or 2 or 3, because you may need to cycle through a couple of listing agents, and they may need to cycle through some inventory of theirs before they locate sellers who are willing to allow this, right? I'm curious, Debbie, I saw you jump on. Could you unmute for a second and tell me, in your inventory, what's the availability of open houses from your sellers? I'm not asking for you to house everybody's open houses this weekend. What I'm asking is, have your sellers responded to the idea of things like appointment only open houses?
Most sellers have been receptive. You made me think of, let me close my door one second.
Yeah.
I can hear me, that's not good.
Right.
I was thinking of a couple of listings where we had a flood of showings right at the very beginning of the listing. And I handled it virtually like a public open house and said, I will be here for an hour and you come one by one. And we walked them through. So the mechanics of it, like Donna has said, it works fine. You can have even a flood of people, but you must maintain the discipline. I know in that situation, I locked the front door when we went inside, and then we just kept one person in the house at a time. Most of my sellers are willing to do public open houses. Some version of it. I have one seller right now who will not. They won't even let buyers in until they're willing to put an offer in. That's going to hit the market tomorrow. And so we've done all the virtual stuff. You have to just be, I think, very mindful of all the things that we're mindful of these days.
Yeah. So the good news, thank you for that. The good news is that from at least Debbie's experience with her inventory and her sellers, most sellers are receptive to some version of that open house, right? And so there were a couple of questions in the chat. So where you find if you don't have your own inventory, you need to locate listing agents inside of one of our offices and start having conversations around opportunities that they might have inside of some of their inventory, right? So if I had no inventory and I wanted to host an open house, I would run a report in the MLS to see what the office inventory is. I would see where I might want to host an open house, right? I have a quick story I'll tell you. That a couple of years ago, I had someone come to me and say, Rick, I've been doing a bunch of open houses, and I'm not thrilled with the results. And I said, well, tell me about that. What have the results been? They said, well, I have like 5 or 6 different buyers from about 2 months worth of open houses. And I thought, what were your expectations? And they said, well, I'm not talking about the number of buyers I have. I thought, okay, well, good, because that's not bad, right? You're going to host 8 or 10 open houses and find 5 or 6 active buyers. Okay, I think I'll do that every single weekend. And I said, well, what's the issue? And she said, well, the buyers are all for Oxford. And I said, well, Oxford, Connecticut? She said, yeah. And I said, well, all of them? She said, every single one of them. I said, well, that's weird. Why are the buyers for Oxford? She said, well, I've been hosting an open house at a listing in Oxford. Oh, okay, well, that is definitely how that works, right? So be clear about when you decide to host an open house and you're looking for buyers. Well, buyers who are at an open house in Reading are likely considering living in Reading. So if you're not interested in a buyer in Reading, well, then don't host that open house, right? If you're interested in a certain price range because you think it's moving faster, right? You can kind of take a look at that and see, well, I want to host open houses in Danbury in the 3s. I want to host open houses in Norwalk in the 4s or 450 range, right? I want to host open houses someplace, and then see who has that inventory by running an office report in the MLS, right? And then just get on the phone. And so if I decide I want to host an open house on a property that Debbie is the listing agent for, I'm going to shoot Debbie an email, or I'm going to pick up the phone and call her and say, hey, I was curious, wondering if your sellers at 123 Main Street are receptive to public open houses. I'm doing an appointment only open house scenario, and I wondered if there was an opportunity either this weekend or next weekend for me to host at that particular house. Please note, sometimes the listing agent's going to say absolutely. Sometimes the listing agent's going to say no, for whatever reason, right? Which is why you need to have a bunch of different options and a bunch of different listing agents. Don't take it personally. They're typically not saying no to you. They're saying no to the opportunity at that moment. Maybe it's a bad time. Maybe the seller they just had an issue. Maybe the seller isn't allowing open houses. Maybe the listing agent wants to host the first open house there. It's brand new to the market. They want to host the first one themselves, right? There's a whole lot of different reasons why someone might say no, and there's a whole ton of opportunity when people say yes. Does that help in terms of trying to find your open house? So just be clear about the criteria that you want. And here's my other thought. Make sure you have a criteria for your open houses. Those of you who do have listing inventory, the other thing I will advise you is don't get stuck in your own inventory, because it's easy to get stuck in your own inventory, right? And what I mean by that is just because you're the listing agent on these 4 properties doesn't mean that every open house that you host needs to be on those 4 properties. Maybe you do those for a bit and then you go out and seek out other opportunities in a different price range or a different town or city to drive your business, both on the sales side, on the buyer side and on the listing side, with other opportunities. Does that make sense? Cool. What other questions do you have about open houses? Let me make sure I got everybody's. Are buyers buying with just virtual tours versus a physical showing? Yes, certainly during the lockdown period, that was far more prevalent than it is today. I think that there are some opportunities to continue to use virtual tools with either buyers who are hesitant to go and see homes physically, or sellers who are hesitant to have buyers come into their homes physically. So if you have a situation where one of those things exists, either the buyers or the sellers aren't all that receptive, certainly if you represent the buyer, I'm going to call Ryan and say, hey, Ryan, that house on Sycamore, do you have a virtual tour available that you can send me? I'm going to send it to my folks. They're going to go through it. You can then take a second step if they kind of like it, and yet there's still some resistance either on the seller's side or the buyer's side to a physical showing. You could see if you could go to the house and kind of FaceTime them through the house. So now it's just you in the seller's house, FaceTiming with the buyers, walking them around, showing them things up and down. And there are still some, I would say limited at this point, but there are still some sellers who will ask for an offer before they have a physical showing. That is still happening, right? And it is legitimate. The offer would be contingent upon having a physical walkthrough, right? I'll tell you, I buy multifamilies for investment all the time, and that's how we do it for the most part. You get to see the basement typically, and then if you're on your first visit, and if you're interested, like, okay, put something on paper. We typically don't see the units, the interior units, until the inspection, because with 3 or 4 different tenants to have to arrange that with all the time, it just gets too difficult for the listing agents to arrange. So just move to, we like it, the numbers work, the pictures make sense, the virtual whatever is enough. Make the offer, and then if you have to make an adjustment once you're in there, then you make an adjustment once you're in there. Does that make sense, everybody? Any questions on that? Does it sound a little weird? Because it kind of is a little weird, right? It's, and maybe weird's the wrong word. It's different. It's simply different than the way we did it before March the 15th, right? And so, does that answer that, Jennifer? Hopefully that answers that, right? So there's a whole lot of opportunities for virtual opportunities. Melanie asks, should I just attend an open house that's not listed by Keller Williams? Melanie, I'm not sure I understand the question. Tell me some more about that.
Okay, so hi, good evening, by the way. I don't think I said that. So when you mentioned attending open houses, I just Googled open houses like nearby, and I see one that's probably, I don't even know who's listed under, like it's under a different realty firm, Danforth Properties or something like that. And the weeks are kind of better for me now since I'm working from home. So I wanted to just attend, but can I just simply attend? I don't even have business cards yet. But I want to get out there as soon as possible. I know Staples, sometimes you can kind of expedite cards. Would that be in my best interest, or should I just wait until I have, things a little more set up?
Got it. So the idea of when I said going to an open house to kind of shadow, you can only kind of go and shadow our own inventory, right? Right. So if it's not listed, gotcha. Somebody in our brokerages,
sort of like stealing.
Yeah, it's sort of exactly. It's sort of exactly like trying to steal, right? And so that wouldn't be looked upon terribly favorably. You can certainly go and attend as just someone, an agent previewing the house. So you can certainly set those set those things up and just check out the inventory. But from a figuring out, what we used to ask of brand new licensees was you go and you shadow somebody who has done open houses before, so you can kind of see how they go. And that's what I meant. I'm not. If you and another agent decide that makes sense and you guys want to do that, that's that's your decision.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to encourage more people out of house, which is why I backed off.
Right. Okay.
And
Okay.
as far as the business cards,
Uh-huh.
as far as the business cards go, I don't not do anything because you don't have business cards, right?
Okay.
Business cards are very like 5 years ago. I would instead work with your mobile app, dive into the mobile app, and instead of giving out business cards, make sure people have your mobile app so that you capture their information as well, and simply utilize that. Oh, see that, Bogdan? I think we had the same brain explosion about KW app, right? So business, I'm going to tell you guys, I don't even have business cards. I haven't had business cards for 5 years or so. I refuse to print them. I refuse to waste money on them. I refuse to carry them around. I'd rather just ask people for their information, and now I'm in control of the contact, right? Handing out business cards, I cede control of the communication because I give people my information and I'm hoping that they're going to reach back and contact.
Right. Okay. I
So
like
if that helps
idea.
with the business card idea.
Yes. Yeah, it does. It gives me another perspective. So great.
Excellent.
Okay. Thank you.
No worries. All right. Any other questions on open houses? Let me go here as we tick out of time. People who, so homework is, this is week number 2, right? So whatever your weekly goal is, you're now at the beginning of a whole nother week. So you need to now attract 2 more new pieces of business. So you have 2 more new appointments, or 1, whatever your number is, right? So stay on the hunt. Stay on the hunt for that next appointment. The consistency with which you can book appointments, find and book appointments, will determine your level of success in this industry. It's not about 1 here and 1 there. It's about consistency, and it's about building a strategy. What we're going to do on Wednesday for the first 15 minutes or so is we're going to share some ahas about the source of business discussion that we had Friday and then the second half of today. And then I'm going to ask you to start building a lead generation strategy. We've kind of gone through the sources of business. There aren't an unlimited number of places that you find business, right? You find business via your database. You find business via expireds and for sale by owners. You find business via open houses. You find business via agent-to-agent referral networks, and you find business via farming. There's not a whole lot of other ways to find business. And so what you need to now figure out is, what are going to be the pillars of my business? Where am I going to focus my time, effort, money, and energy? And so we'll talk about what one of these being a pillar actually looks like. You know what, in our remaining minutes, I'll give you a quick example of what I mean by that. We just spent time on open houses, right? If open houses is a pillar of your business, and what I mean by that is a pillar is where you get most of your business from. If you look back over the course of 12 months, most of your business came from X source. That's a pillar of your business. If open houses is a pillar for you, now some of you have to buckle your seatbelt when I say this. Open houses creating a consistent level of income for you means that you're hosting about 8 a month, like 2 a week. It's about 100 open houses a year. If in fact you're going to count on the consistency of finding new appointments at open houses. I can't tell you how many times I'm coaching with an agent who says, you know what, I'm so frustrated. I'm doing these open houses and I'm just not getting any business from it. I say, okay, well, tell me about your last quarter, like your last 3 months. How many open houses did you actually host? 4. 4 open houses in 13 weeks? Well, if it was that easy to get that much business from 4 open houses in 13 weeks, half of the planet would be real estate agents. I know it seems like half the planet are actually real estate agents, but it's not. That's not true, right? That's the idea of something being a pillar. You need to be maximizing the volume with which you hit that, and creating a level of strategy and consistency around that level of scale on that source of business. And I'll tell you what, if you create a system that says, I do 2 open houses a week, come hell or high water, right? And maybe take the week of Thanksgiving off and the week of Christmas and New Year's off and the week you're on vacation off or 2 weeks you're on vacation off, you're still plus 90 plus open houses in the course of a year. I know $200,000 a year or better buyer's agents in our organizations where April, May, June, well, not this April, May, and June, but most April, May, and June, and then again September, early October, they're figuring out how to juggle their buyer business on the weekends to make sure they're doing 3 or 4 open houses a weekend during the busier times. Now, just PS, with hour-long appointment-only open houses, that is so much easier to do, right? The opportunity to host additional open houses when you're shortening the time and focusing people in on, I'm going to be here from this time to this time. Please make sure you're on time. And text for the appointment, you can get more in. So that's what that looks like. There are other versions of what pillars on your database look like, pillars in expireds looks like. And we'll talk more about that when we start on Wednesday. But when we finish that 15 or so minute conversation at the start of Wednesday, the homework that you're going to have is, what are the pillars of my business going to be? How am I going to push forward? Where am I going to focus my time, effort, energy, and money to make sure I get the best return the fastest? And we'll play with some ideas about how to create that strategy depending on who you are and what your goals are. Does that sound like a plan? All righty. And hopefully by Wednesday, when I see you again, my internet will be fixed such that you all don't look like Dali paintings, frozen in time and drooping, because that's how you start to look. You start to droop. Because everybody moves a little bit slowly. So hopefully we'll be back with live feed. Guys, it's always my pleasure to spend time with you. I hope this has been helpful. I will see you on Wednesday, same bat time, same bat station. Have a great evening. Have a nice dinner.